Okay, so welcome back to another edition of your homework videos. Hope you have had a good weekend. So let's jump right into Monday's first problem. It says Oscar has 16 pencils and his sister Julia has 12 pencils. If the ratio of Oscar's pencils to Julia's pencils stays the same, how many pencils would Julia have if Oscar has 36 pencils? Now, this homework is going all the way back to doing ratios because we are getting ready for STAR because we're in crunch time since our test is here in a few weeks. But we just wanted to review how to do ratios with y'all. So what I want to do first is I want to write the original ratio that we have here. It says Oscar has 16 pencils, Julia has 12 pencils. And it says here in bold that we want the ratio of Oscar's pencils to Julia's pencils. So the ratio that I'm going to come up with is the number of pencils for Oscar, sorry I spelled that wrong, Oscar, to the number of pencils for Julia. Now in our problem it says that Oscar has 16 pencils. So right next to Oscar's name we'll put the number 16. And it says that Julia has 12 pencils, so next to Julia we'll put 12. Now with our ratios, like we talked about when we first went over ratios, our ratios always like to be in its simplest form. Now, some of your ratios might not simplify, some of them do. In this particular case, with this 16 to 12 ratio, it does look like that those two numbers do have some factors in common. That way I can simplify. So on some scratch paper, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to figure out what my common factors for 16 and 12 are. So first off, for our factors for 12, we know that we can multiply 1 times 12 in order to get 12. We know we can multiply 2 times 6, and we also know we can multiply 3 times 4. All of these things would multiply together to give me 12. We'll do the same thing for 16. We know that 1 times 16 is 16. We know that 2 times 8 is 16. And we also know that 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. Now, my greatest common factor, or we've called that our GCF, is the biggest number that these two numbers here have in common, or the biggest factor that they have in common. So if I start looking through my list, I notice here that it looks like they have a 4 in common, but anything higher than that doesn't end up being common between the two. So we're going to use 4 here in order to simplify our ratio. Going back to our work, we said that we'll use 4 to simplify. So 16 divided by 4, we said earlier gives us 4. And 12 divided by 4, we know from our chart, gave us 3. So now we have our original ratio. But the question asks, how many pencils would Julia have if Oscar has 36 pencils? So I want to review, since it's been a while since we've done this, how to make our one table. So we have a column with a W, a column with an O, and a column with an N. Now just to review what these letters stand for, the W in your table is going to represent the words for our ratio. In this case, our words are going to be Oscar and Julia. The O in my one table stands for the original ratio. Now our ratio, now that it's simplified, can be used in our one table to figure out what we need if Oscar has 36 pencils. Now the N in our one table stands for new, as in our new ratio. So in our new ratio, we know that Oscar is going to have 36 pencils. So up here for Oscar, his new number is going to be 36. And we need to figure out what this number is right here. So if I look at this one table now, we have a few options in order to figure out what this number is here. We could either look between our two ratios and see if we can find some kind of a scale factor. I can look within my ratio to see if we have a scale factor that I can use over here. Or if neither of those things work, we could always do the bat and ball method, which I'll review with you later on this week. But it looks like here, if I look at my one table, I can look between my ratios. I can very easily get from my original ratio to my new ratio by multiplying times 9, because 4 times 9 gives me 36. With that being said, since 4 times 9 is 36, I can multiply 3 times 9, multiply 3 times 9 here, in order to figure out what x has to equal here. Using our multiplication facts, we know 3 times 9 is going to give me 27. So that means that Julia will have to have 27 pencils in order to keep the same ratio with Oscar's 36. Now when you go to do number 2, all number 2 asks you to do is write the ratio of yellow bushes to the total bushes. So keep in mind that Rod has 10 total bushes, and out of all those 10, only 2 of them are yellow. And make sure that you simplify your ratio before you box your final answer, and we will see you tomorrow for Tuesday's homework.